I request Professor Dr. Umar Ali Khan, who is President of Pakistan Physiological Society and Pro-Vice Chancellor of Isra University Al-Nafis Medical College and Hospital, for the introductory remarks. Please, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and good morning. So it is a wonderful day that we have got a real international seminar, especially from SAP. Professor Aslam Saab is with us, and we are thankful to you, sir. Professor Ghausal Khan from Saudi Arabia, Dr. Professor Kaushik Bharati from India, Professor Samina Malik from University of Lahore, Professor Dr. Sidra Hamid from Rawalpindi Medical University, and Professor Satish P. Deepankar from India. So this is a very important topic which we are going to discuss about the climatic change and effect of climate change on human physiology. Because we are from SAP countries and we have almost same climatic effects all over us. We were just discussing that what the books which we are following, that is Guyton and Guénon, they are from Western countries where the temperature and climate is different. And probably the hemoglobin level of women given in that book, even the most wealthiest lady in Pakistan or our countries don't have that hemoglobin level, which is given there because of our different climatic changes. So probably now this will be an ignition point so that we start writing books for our own countries of physiology and pharmacology, and hence it will lead to writing books for the treatment as well, because physiology is mother of medicine. Once we have got a good book of physiology, so it will be followed by all other subjects, inshallah ta'ala. So I welcome you all. I request Professor Aslam Saab to please give an initial talk.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Thank you very much, Professor Umar Ali Khan, President, Pakistan Physiological Society, and Professor Ghulam Mustafa Lodi, General Secretary of Pakistan Physiological Society, and the Chief Editor of SAP newsletter, and our friend Ghausal Khan from Saudi Arabia, and all the delegates of this hybrid meeting from Pakistan and abroad. Today's topic has very selectively been used by the Pakistan Physiological Society in conjunction with South Asian Association of Physiologists, that is, effect of changes on human physiology, or I will call it effect of climate change on impact of health, impact on health. Now, if we look at South Asia, if we look at South Asia geography, I narrated it as well while seminar on environmental physiology, that is geoecology is multifarious. Now in South Asia, and in particular in Pakistan, we have got deserts, we have got plain, we have got forests, we have got mountains, we have rivers, seas, and ocean, Arabic Ocean as well. So that would mean that this part of the world is very prone to have climate change and change in the environment, in the geoecology. And if we look at climate, now in the climate, we have got all the 6 seasons, not 4, but we have got 6 seasons in a year. Like we have got snowfall, we have got rains, we have got droughts, we have got dry weather, and temperature plus 50 to minus 50 at one time. In one part of the country, it is plus 50 to the maximum. And in another part of the country, it is in minus 50, say at Mount Everest or in Karakoram 2, K2, it could be minus 50. So that would mean so much of variations in temperature. And the third main factor is population explosion. Almost all, not all, but almost all the countries of South Asia, like they are having population explosion, like more is a birth rate. So all these factors lead to global warming and the other climate changes. And I appreciate the President and the General Secretary of Pakistan Physiological Society to have such a meaningful, useful, and purposeful theme of today's conference, that is effect of climate on impact of health or on human physiology. So as introductory talk, my talk will be only what is a climate change. But what is its effect on impact of health or human physiology will be dealt by the respective speakers, which is on, say, on cardiovascular physiology and on renal physiology. Now, effect of climate change on body metabolism and skin, and effect of climate change on blood and respiratory physiology, and effect of climate change on disruption of homeostasis. So these will be specifically touched by the speaker. I thought it appropriate to show you a video, which is not mine. It is with a courtesy of Al Jazeera, like Al Jazeera documentary, small 6 to 7 minutes movie, which defines what is a climate change. So its impact on health will be dealt by the respective succeeding speakers. So can I request you to please go for the video of Al Jazeera, not mine, of Al Jazeera, now which defines what is climate change.
Let's talk about climate change. People are calling it the crisis of our time, and it is.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate
Changes.
Climate
change.
But it's easy to get lost in this story. The science is dense and politics get in the way. World leaders are meeting in Madrid to talk about the climate crisis and how to slow it down. And they're under pressure from millions of people around the world calling for concrete action.
The empty promises are the same and the inaction is the same.
So what exactly are we doing wrong and how do we fix it? We're going to kick this off with some basic science, so bear with me, because this is important. Look at this graph. These are the levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere over hundreds of thousands of years. But this spike in carbon dioxide at the very end, that took off during the Industrial Revolution. We started breaking CO2 records in 1950, and we haven't stopped since. Why? Well, scientists say there's a 95% chance that human activity is the cause. We've been burning more and more fossil fuels like oil and coal, which release CO2, to power our homes, factories, airplanes, and cars. There's also a lot more of us. The global population has tripled in the past 70 years. And we're consuming more products from animals that release another pollutant called methane. So all those gases are released into the air, and when sunlight gets into the Earth's atmosphere, some of the heat gets trapped and the planet gets warmer. That's why they call it the greenhouse effect. But the concern is not that the Earth is getting warmer. It's that it's happening far too quickly.
But it's actually the warmest temperature on Earth since the last ice age, since 10,000 years ago.
The UN says that right now, our world is about 1 degree hotter than pre-industrial times. That's around the year 1800, which is okay. In fact, the UN says if we warm by 1.5 degrees before the end of the century, we should be fine. The UN even says 2 degrees would probably be all right. But again, the problem is speed, because right now we're on track to hit 1.5 degrees in only 10 years. And if we don't slow that warming down, it could mean catastrophe within my lifetime, and maybe yours too. And we're already getting a taste.
Climate change is here. Climate change is happening. We are well into the 6th mass extinction event.
Europe is currently colder than the Arctic.
More than 1,000 people being rescued just in the early morning hours of Sunday.
Millions of people are likely to suffer worsening food and water shortages.
Drought, which is now in its 10th year, is a phenomena that's here to stay.
We've never seen a year's worth of rain in less than 7 days.
Sea levels are rising about 3 millimeters a year because seawater expands as temperatures get warmer. Melting ice sheets and glaciers also add trillions of tons of fresh water into our oceans. People around the world are already losing their homes. And if things carry on, millions more of us will have to pack up too. Entire coastal cities could be underwater within 80 years, like Miami in the US or Osaka in Japan. Entire island nations in the Pacific could completely disappear.
Natural disasters becoming more and more intense, more frequent, with more devastating consequences. The dramatic impacts of drought in different parts of the world, all this is creating a situation that is a real threat to humankind, and we are not doing enough.
If 99% of doctors said to you, take this medicine or you will get really sick and probably die, you would take it. Who wouldn't take it? The problem is, at the moment, we don't have any medicine.
Now, there is a plan to slow all this down. Back in 2016, world leaders signed the so-called Paris Agreement. And the big pledge is to cap temperatures rising by 1.5 degrees or a maximum of 2 before the year 2100. So countries set their own targets on how much CO2 they emit. But here's the thing. 3 years after the agreement, global CO2 levels are still going up.
CO2 emissions have been going up the last year by 2%, so that's actually above the average of the last 10 years. So it's started to increase again, and it doesn't look too good.
In some ways, we're going backwards.
The United States will cease all implementation of the non-binding Paris Accord and the draconian financial and economic burdens the agreement imposes on our country.
The US, one of the world's biggest polluters, has pulled out of the Paris deal. Russia and China are accused of not giving themselves ambitious targets in the first place. Turkey and Poland want to build more power plants that use coal. And then there's the skeptics.
It's a political decision that there is man-made global warming.
Forced the computer models to say, aha, human influence, CO2 and other stuff.
The ground-based temperature data has been massaged to show an increase, but the satellite data shows no increase.
On the other hand, there is positive momentum. There's more awareness, and some countries are making progress. India, Morocco, and the Gambia have massive renewable energy projects.
There are different countries doing things successfully. So some countries are, for example, making all public transport free in the cities. What a great way to encourage people out of their cars.
But experts say what's needed now is an even bigger push to change everything about the way we run our world.
Business as usual has got to change. Politics as usual has got to change. In order to combat that, we have to change the system that has allowed it to happen. You can't have infinite growth on a finite planet.
And everyone can do that by shifting to renewable energy, reducing the use of cars, use train more, cycle more, eat less meat, consume a bit more carefully.
So where does that leave us? Well, there's only so much bike riding and light bulb replacing that you and I can do every day. But the truth is that it's those everyday things that are going to change anyway. Even coffee could run out if farmers can't grow it. So the expert advice is that it's down to all of us to change our ways and shake things up, or climate change is gonna do it for us. If there's a story you want to get your head around, let us know. Get in touch with us on Twitter or Facebook. Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode.
Thank you very much, sir, for the very wonderful overview. And now we will request our first speaker, Professor Gosal Azam Khan. He is renowned cardiovascular physiologist, and he is a professor of physiology and chartered scientist at King Faisal University, Saudi Arabia. He has more than 500 citations, and his area of interest is cardiovascular physiology. And his topic of presentation is effect of climate change on cardiovascular physiology. Welcome to the session, sir. Please, you can start your presentation. Sir, kindly share your slide.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I thank you very much for the Pakistan Physiological Society, as well as Indian Physiological Society of India, for giving me the chance to talk about the current research of what I am continuing. Basically, I'm a physiologist. I had done a lot of work in this, effect of hypoxia in the physiological effect. Here, I am going to talk about the effect of climate change in the cardiovascular physiology. Okay, here. So climate change is a big issue right now, and it is a major problem. So it refers to a long-term shift of the Earth's temperature and the weather pattern. So the various threats and consequences been seen due to for the impact of the climate change, and the impact not only for the economic, it is also social and environmental, as well as health. So there is a WHO report in 2021. It shows that in 2030 to 2050, the climate change is expected to cause approximately 250,000 additional deaths per year due to mainly the malnutrition, malaria, diarrhea, and the most important is the heat stress. So therefore, the economic impact is immense. It's about 2 to 4 billion losses per year by 2030. If you look at this figure, so what is the changes of the temperature in last couple of years, and in 1956 to 1976, and here if you look at here 2011 to 2021, if you look at the climate change pattern, the increase of temperature in globally and different part of the Earth. The next slide also showed, how the temperature is increasing in terms of the observed temperature and human and natural drive temperature. If you look at the natural drive temperature, it is consistently, basal level, but in terms of human and natural drive, due to pollutions and all these issues, the temperature rises in 2000 to 2020 is exponential. So we've seen several news in last 6 months. A lot of people are dying in record-breaking temperature. And if you look at this figure here, if you look at the, basically the Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan, and in the Malaysia, in this region, how the temperature is increasing. And this also shown in the red. And this shows the temperature increase, most dramatic in Southeast Asia. So we know there is a, abnormal temperature responsible for the 2.6 million deaths in Asia every year. This is the report from the newspaper. Okay. Now recently you heard about the news in Mumbai. There is a lot of people died due to the heat stroke. So what is the impact? What is the impact of climate change? Climate change in human health. If you look at the most important issue is the pollution, and pollution increases the greenhouse effect. It's the air pollution leading to asthma and cardiovascular disease, and also it causing the extreme weather pattern, which changes the vector ecology, leading to malaria, dengue, encephalitis. And also there is increasing allergens leading to several respiratory diseases and water pollution, as well as food scarcity and environmental degradation leading to forced migration and civil conflict, mental health impact. So altogether, so the impact of change, climate change in human health is immense. Okay, here we want to show the how climate change affecting the cardiovascular diseases. So the most important issue nowadays is the heat stroke. So temperature is rising globally. So the heat exposure of heat leading to hypertension, diabetes, kidney, renal disease, as well as heat stroke. On the other hand, eco-anxiety leading to climate change, like generalized anxiety, and Takashua, cardiomyopathy, and also the climate change leading to vector like tick, increase of tick. So there is a pavinosis as well as insect, called the disease called sharks, and malaria and dengue. And overall, if you look at the other issues, the air pollution is leading to hypertension, cardiovascular disease, dyslipidemia, and endothelial dysfunction, as well as MI and coronary artery disease. Altogether leading to myocardial infarction, stroke, heart failure, arrhythmia, and pulmonary embolism, as well as death. So here we want to show the seasonal variation of the, the cardiovascular disease. If you look at the seasonal variation, winter we have a more, the human being are more predisposed to the several diseases rather than the winter. Here you can see heart rate increase, blood pressure, as well as sweating, dehydration, and there is a lot of physiological and psychological impact. And pollution and climate change also having an immense role in the cardiovascular disease. So the pollution leading to greenhouse effect, it's increase the temperature, and that lead to MI and heart attack, all these things, and as well as the air pollution, and also water pollution, all leading to cardiovascular diseases. So what is the heat stroke, and what is this physiological consequences? You can hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the heat stroke, what is the heat stroke? It's a rapid changes in the critical temperature, greater than 40 degrees centigrade. So that change is leading to central nervous system changes and leading to convulsion, and coma, bleeding disorder, or DIC and cardiomyopathy, and also all together is going to precipitate in MI. So we suggest that stress-induced sterile inflammation could be one of the important factor which trigger the netosis and which precipitate the CVDs as well as high blood pressure, thrombosis, and MI. So what is the sterile inflammation? So sterile inflammation is a non-pathogen or non-bacteria and virus-induced inflammation, which we published a lot of paper in case of stress also, and they release several damage-associated molecular pattern which activate the toll receptors, and consequently activate toll receptor as well as the troponin T. So here, if you look at these molecules of sterile inflammation, like HMGB1 and heat shock proteins S100V, and there is a RNA, it's called the extracellular RNA or extracellular DNA. These are molecules mainly remain in the nucleus, but during this stress, this molecule we found in the plasma of the, plasma of the samples. So here, so we also know that netosis, that means the neutrophil, due to the stress, neutrophil actually secrete or release the nucleic acids, or you can say the DNA and RNA material, and which form a net-like formation which trap the red blood cells as well as the platelet. So all these things activate the the coagulation mechanism, or it activate the troponin T, as well as it's also activate the platelet. It's leading to thrombosis. Here is the mechanism. So the release of net leading to like sepsis, even the arthritis, thrombosis, and coagulation disorder in cancer, and tumor metastasis, and so many things. Even the gout and IBD. All this is the recent theory. So netosis, and another theory is going on. It's called the mitosis. The macrophage also release the same DNA molecule, and they come in the plasma, and the DNAs and RNA, they chopped this molecule and make it in small pieces that we call the extracellular DNA or extracellular RNA that trigger the signaling mechanism and initiate the coagulation or MI and heart attack. So what we did actually, this is a small set of study we conducted in a very, it's a high, stress heat stroke model. We use a simple chamber, and we increase the temperature of that is closely, like 45 degrees. And then we keep the animal for different time frame. And we measure the extracellular RNA and extracellular DNA. What we found that exposure of the temperature with like 45 degrees centigrade, and the RNA level is going significantly. And similarly, the eDNA also going. So it suggests that stress-induced cyclic, nucleic acid, cytosolic nucleic acid, mainly that extracellular DNA and extracellular RNA. And we also look at other molecules like, HMGB1 and S100B, and we found the same, significant increase of the HMGB1 and S100B. Here, we also look at the coagulation, parameters. We saw the prothrombin time is significantly decreased with the increase of the exposure of heat, as well as the factor 10, and also increase the thrombomodulin concentration, decrease the thromboprotective, and tissue TFPI also decreased significantly. So this all suggests that there is a coagulation disorder, or we can say it is a DIC type of pattern. So it's also activate the tissue factor and leading to extrinsic pathway of the coagulation, leading to thrombosis. And we also found that there is an increase of the troponin T with the increase of the exposure of the heat. This is one of the marker of the MI. So it suggests that heat induced death mostly due to the either thrombosis or the MI and stroke. So this study suggests that heat stroke induce CNS as well as induce sterile inflammation, and sterile inflammation activate the coagulation disorder as well as troponin T. So this suggests that heat stroke induce CVDs through the sterile inflammation, which activate coagulation disorder and MI. Actually, similar kind of study we had already conducted and published several papers in hypoxia and other kind of environmental stress. So thank you very much. And this study, I thank you so many my students and one of my postdoc, and we are continuing these studies, and we try to secure some funding from here in Saudi Arabia, and hopefully, inshallah, we'll continue this project in near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for very wonderful and enlightening presentation. It was actually very informative. Indeed, it was very informative. Now we will start our next presentation, and it will be done by Professor Dr. Samina Malik. She is Professor of Physiology and Head of the Department of Physiology, University College of Medicine and Dentistry, University of Lahore. Welcome, madam. You can start your presentation.
Thank you. I hope everybody can see me and everybody can hear me. Claire, yes or no?
Yes, okay, please.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and I'm highly grateful to ISRA University, Nafis Medical College, all the organizers, and especially the Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Umar Ali Khan, for inviting me for this important topic, which is the need of the day, climate change and its effect on skin and metabolism. So climate change has its effect on different aspects of life, as you can see, and it is very much aligned with the different sustainable development goals. Just to name these 7, it is touching these 7 sustainable development goals that will follow in the presentation. So this is the roadmap that first will be defining the climate change, which must be already defined by many of you. And then we'll talk about the climate change on its effects on metabolism and then on skin. Now, introduction of climate change, by United Nations, according to the Framework Convention on Climate Change, they say that a change which is attributed directly or indirectly to the activity of human beings, which is changing the composition of the global atmosphere, is called as the climate change. And it is also defined as any addition to the natural climate, any variation in it, which is observed or compared in different time periods over time. So Lancet has published a beautiful article on the global syndemic of obesity, undernutrition, and climate change. And it talks about, so there are 3 pandemics. Now these 3 conditions are considered as a pandemic and also included into a global syndemic, because these synchronize with each other. There is a synergy of these 3 things, and they co-occur in time and place. And these 3 things, as suggested by Lancet, published by Lancet, is obesity, undernutrition, and climate change. It means that when there is climate change, there can be obesity, there can be undernutrition. So here you can see the burden of malnutrition in different places in its forms. You can see that the dark blue color represents at the top the contribution of high body mass index. That is, you can see high body mass index in globally. You can see high body mass index, and malnutrition in all its forms. It is associated with high body mass index. Then high systolic blood pressure is also found, and tobacco consumption is also seen there. And high fast blood plasma glucose is also seen there. So you can see that if you compare the global index with the high STI, then you can see that there is in poor socioeconomic status, the obesity is not as common as it is in the high socioeconomic status globally. But there are other factors like malnutrition, which will be seen, and tobacco consumption you can be seen. High in the high socio-development societies, you can see that there will be high consumption of tobacco, as you can see, in comparison with the other globally. And then you can see that there is more body mass index. High body mass index is seen in the where there is high socioeconomic status. If you compare it with the low socio-economic status, which is the diagram below, you can see that there is wash effect, that is water, sanitation, and hygiene. And you can see that there is a child and maternal undernutrition is more common as compared to the high body mass index in the low socioeconomic countries. So this is a clear difference, that the high socioeconomic countries are mainly suffering from obesity, whereas the low socioeconomic countries, they are mainly suffering from child and maternal undernutrition. So this difference I just wanted to present. And here you can see the mechanism of climate change, how it is affecting the metabolism. You can see that the climate change has so many interceptions. You can see that economy is disturbed. When economy is disturbed, again, there is lack of food, and there is flood, and then there are other effects like obesity, endocrine dysregulation resulting from increased greenhouse gas emissions, air pollution. So all these things are interconnected. So you can see highlighted are 2. One is in blue, you can see climate change and obesity. So there are so many factors that are affecting the climate change and obesity, and eventually resulting into different conditions like metabolic syndrome even. There are factors like sedentary lifestyle, then there is genetic predisposition, there is unequal access to healthy food, there are racial factors, ethnicity factors, poverty factors, there is there are other factors like increased eating frequency and large portions, large sizes of food portions, because the people are not educated in terms of nutrition and diet. Then there are factors that affect sleep, and then there is excessive consumeration, increased cattle and agriculture, increased fossil fuel use, which should be saved, and there should be alternate sources of energy that should be used. Then there is increased motorized transportation, motor use vehicles, this is more common, resulting into increased greenhouse gas emissions. And there is then population expansion also affecting these factors. So together, these factors, they are precipitating the effects that lead to metabolic problems associated with climate change. So here you can see the distribution across the ecosystems and food chain, including the radiations being emitted from a depleted ozone layer. And then there are effects of the pollution emitted from the industries, the nuclear waste as well, and the use of pesticides, which is common, instead of using the organic substances as fertilizers. Then there's use of plastic, and this plastic is thrown in the water, water bottles and wastes are thrown in the water, and the animals that consume on that water, then they become ill. And when those animals are consumed, whether they are on land or in water or in the air, when they are consumed by a human being, then the human being is being affected. The soil, the vegetation is also affected by these wastes. So no matter they consume plants or they consume animals from ground or from air or from underwater, the human beings are getting diseased, and as a result, the offsprings are getting diseased, and this disease is transferred from mother to the child. So there are certain recommendations that need to be generated regarding the how to cope with the metabolic effects that are likely to happen in response to the climate change. So these include physical activity that should be encouraged, like walking and swimming. Then we can improve farming and encourage the vegan diet in comparison with the meat and beef diet. And then we can retain the fossil fuels by including petroleum, diesel, and gas, by making use of alternate energy sources like electric, solar, and thermal sources even. So we can make organic fertilizers from the wasted leaves and the vegetable waste instead of throwing it away. And for that, we need to have different types of waste baskets like it is in the culture outside Pakistan. And we should protect the forests and stop cutting trees. And we can switch to sustainable transport, like we can use electric cars that are now available. And we can use carpooling instead of taking the car alone to our workplaces. Then we should restore nature to absorb more carbon. And you should not throw garbage in the lakes and in the water, so that it should not be then disturbing the life over there, and in terms should not harm the human beings. So this is a terrible picture that that was heart-touching when I saw that the South Coast Botanic Garden, even at Long Beach, California, where there's a lot of education, people were throwing garbage, not in the park, but in the water surrounding it, in the lake surrounding it. So I could see that there is a creation of these figures with the help of the garbage that was collected from the waters. And they presented it in the garden to teach the people. This was one kind of an education, silent education, that they should not be disturbing the natural pools and should not be throwing this waste over there. So then it really moved me. And then there are other effects of climate change on the skin, you know, a little bit of physiology, that when there is a high temperature and there is humid environment, then there will be more sweating. And it will not be removed from the skin, and it will flare up eczema and conditions like psoriasis, rashes, athlete's foot, and hives. And likewise, extreme weather conditions, which include the cold snaps as well as heat waves, they can cause more humidity in the air, and which will result in dryness of the skin, and patches of psoriasis will be seen, and there will be increased sensitivity of the skin. Likewise, cold weather can strip away the oil of the skin, natural oil of the skin, and can lead to, again, problems with the skin. Humid weather can open up or it can enlarge the pores of the skin, and it will make the skin more vulnerable to the effects of the dirt present in the air and the oil, toxins, and pollutants from the environment. It may result into conditions, allergic conditions, including acne, blemishes, and inflammation as well. So what to do? So we should use sunscreens, and you know that sunscreen has to be coated time and again, at least 2 hourly. And we should wear protective clothing. The parts of the body that are supposed to be covered as ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are actually protecting us. And this act is actually protecting us. And topical vitamins can be used on the skin, like vitamin C ointment for the face and hands. And like we can wear hats, or we can wear dupattas over the head, or anything to cover the head. So avoid peak hours, and check air quality, and stay hydrated. It is very important. And one should eat vitamin-rich food and consume the vitamins as well as supplements, which are very important, which are normally killed when the way we cook the Pakistani food. We not only change the color of the vegetables, but we also kill the vitamins in them. So these were the references, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Ma'am, it really added information to our knowledge. We will have question answer session at the end of the session, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, ma'am.
So I'm highly grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now I request our next in-line speaker. He's also very renowned physiologist. He is Professor Kaushik Bharti. He's editor-in-chief SAP Bulletin, and he works at Team Lead COVID-19 Research Center, UNESCO, New Delhi, India. His topic of presentation is effect of climate change on renal physiology. He has more than 300 citations. Welcome to the session, sir. You can start your presentation.
First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers, especially Professor Dr. Umar Ali Khan, the president of the Pakistan Physiological Society. I'd also like to thank Professor Dr. Mohammed Aslam for his excellent introduction to the topic of climate change and its effect on the physiological functions of our body. And I must also express my gratitude to Dr. Sadia Zainab for kindly inviting me to deliver this talk, which I feel is a great honor for me. So as you can see, I'll be talking about the effect of climate change on renal physiology. Here you can see the global surface temperature projections starting at 2006 and ending at 2100. And you can see we are here roughly 2023. And if we don't take steps right now, you know, we'll cross the tipping point and the temperatures will soar actually. And by 2100, it will reach, you know, 3.5 to 4 degrees more than what it is today. And, you know, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they won't forgive us for our folly that we're doing right now. And even if steps are taken right now, even so, the temperatures will also rise, but to a lesser degree, that is between 2.5 to 3 degrees more than what it is today. So it's only a matter of 80 years from now. Here are the annual deaths due to disasters between 1998 and 2017. The graph marked in red, these are due to geophysical reasons, for example, earthquakes, etc. And the ones colored in blue, these are due to climate-related causes. For example, we have cyclones, tornadoes, heat waves, droughts, etc. And you can see peaking of this, you know, climate-related in 2003 and in 2008 again. So, of all these climatic disasters, let's have a look at the heat waves, deaths due to heat waves. Between 1998 and 2017, on a global basis, there were 166,000 deaths due to heat waves. In 2003 in Europe, there was a big heat wave that claimed 73,000 lives, whereas in 2010 in Russia, there was also another big heat wave that killed 56,000 people. So here are the functions of the kidneys. The major one is the metabolic waste excretion. There are also other functions such as endocrine functions, control of solutes and fluids, maintenance of blood pressure, maintenance of acid-base balance, as well as drug metabolism and excretion. The reason why I'm showing you this diagram is that all these multitude of functions, they will all become, perturbed, and they will malfunction due to heat stress. Even, the kidney failure can occur due to excessive heat stress. So here are some of the direct impacts of climate change. So with rising temperatures and more frequent heat waves, we will be exposed to this, and there will be increased exposure to elevated daytime and nighttime temperatures. I can tell you here where I live in Delhi, in the peak of summer, we only get respite between, midnight and sunrise. All the other time within 24 hours is extremely hot, especially for those who don't have air conditioning. So it's a very difficult situation. Some of these health effects, heat illnesses spike the longer the heat waves last. So you can get heat stress, dehydration, kidney disease, exacerbation of chronic diseases, as well as decline in mental health. So, for proper mental functioning, you need an optimal temperature. So let's have a look at the changing pattern of exposure to heat waves. So you can see this is expressed as in millions per year. These have started to, peak. You can see here in 2010, it reached 150 million people who were exposed to heat waves. And in 2015, there were 175 million people who were exposed to heat waves. And this trend, it's a rising trend that you can see here. So here I'm showing you some studies, 10 studies that were carried out across the globe on heat waves, the effect of heat waves on kidney disease. By kidney disease, I mean the diseases that were studied were acute kidney injury, chronic kidney disease, kidney failure, as well as admissions to hospitals due to, kidney insufficiency and kidney failures. So, these studies were conducted between 1995 and 2012. And you can see from here, there is interesting, information here is that 9 out of 10 studies were conducted in high income countries. You can see here, USA, UK, Italy, France, Australia, all these places. Whereas only one place, that is Tibet, this is one country only, which came from the LMICs, that is low and middle income countries. So, this is the take home message, is that most probably there should be high resources in the country to conduct these types of studies. These are mainly longitudinal studies, and those having low resources, they don't have the ability to conduct these types of studies. And, that is the main problem actually of conducting. Also the awareness is more, I guess, in the developed countries than in the developing countries. So we can, categorize heat stress into two types. One is heat exhaustion and the other is heat stroke. In case of heat exhaustion, the core temperature lies between 37 and 40 degrees Celsius, whereas in case of heat stroke, the core body temperature is above 40 degrees Celsius. Now, in case of heat exhaustion, you get sort of mild type of symptoms like anxiety, confusion, dizziness, headache. These are all related to the brain, mental function. You can also get fatigue, malaise and weakness, nausea and vomiting, cutaneous flushing, hyperpyrexia, hypotension, tachypnea, tachycardia and arrhythmia, hepatic failure, as well as disseminated intravascular coagulation. In case of heat stroke, the symptoms are more serious. The first one is very mild, I would say, irritability, but the other ones are more severe, like delirium, seizures, ataxia, coma. Coma is very dangerous because if the patient falls into coma and does not come out of the coma, he or she is likely to die. Also, pulmonary edema is there, rhabdomyolysis, renal failure, shock, and multiple organ failure. One of these, as you can see, renal failure. I'll talk about this. What happens, to the kidneys when it is exposed to heat stress. Four major things can occur. One is AKI, or acute kidney injury. The other is chronic kidney disease. The difference between these two is the onset. That is, in AKI, it's called acute because it has a rapid onset. It occurs quicker. Whereas in chronic kidney disease, the disease onset of the disease and the progression of disease is more slower actually. So that is why it's called chronic kidney disease. Also, there is a more chance of kidney stone formation and recurrent urinary tract infections. So these are the major things that can happen to the kidneys due to heat stress. So we just discussed about chronic kidney disease. Let's have a look at its pathogenesis due to heat stress. So when there is excessive heat and inadequate water intake, the hyperosmolarity occurs and the hyperglycemia can also occur. And these can occur, due to sugary drink consumption. This is not, common in manual laborers in this part of the world, but studies have been conducted in Central America among the sugarcane workers, and they have been found to consume sugary drinks, and this has caused elevated glucose levels as well as direct elevation of fructose levels. Now, in order to reduce the glucose concentration in the blood, the glucose enters the polyol pathway. In this pathway, what happens is initially the glucose gets reduced to sorbitol, and the sorbitol substance subsequently undergoes oxidation to fructose. And fructose, as well as recurrent heat stress, both of them can release vasopressin, which has a direct detrimental impact on the kidneys. And also the fructose, that it can cause rise in uric acid levels, as can rhabdomyolysis. And some of this uric acids crystallize and they cause direct tubular damage. So all these things put together, they contribute to the development of chronic kidney disease. So the factors impacting heat-related kidney disease, these are the major factors. One is obviously the age. Old age peoples are more vulnerable to heat stress. They're not able to respond, rapidly to changes in temperatures. So pre-existing kidney disease is also further aggravated due to, heat stress. Pregnancy is another vulnerable group. Both the pregnant women as well as the developing fetus, they are both highly vulnerable to heat stress, and the steps needs to be taken to protect them, which I'll come to in a moment. Poverty is another obvious factor. These manual laborers, they belong to the low socioeconomic class, and they have the least resources to tackle heat stress. They can't protect themselves or their families against heat exposure. So this is very depressing, actually, indeed. So in your clinic, you may face some questions from your patients. Not all patients, I'm not saying all, but some of them who are health conscious, they might have some questions because they might not be aware of the problem. They might ask what the problem is and what the potential health problems are, to be more specific. How climate change affect the kidneys? How do people get exposed and who are affected? and what can we do about it? That's the main question. So in order to counsel these patients, it is advised that the 5 A's framework should be followed. By 5 A's, we mean ask, advise, assess, assist, and arrange. So you need to ask your patients about their level of knowledge about climate change and their effect on the renal system. So by gauging their knowledge, by asking them, you will be able to advise them more better actually about changes they can take in their behaviors. So, you need to assess the patients collaboratively to set goals. Why collaboratively? Because there needs to be a two-way dialogue between the patients and the doctors to set the goals, because in most cases, the patients will tell you if the goals are doable or not, because they know best about that. Also, assistance should be provided to, vulnerable groups. Social support should be provided to them. By vulnerable groups, again, I mentioned that the old-aged people, those who live alone, the pregnant women, these are the vulnerable groups that we need to take care of. And obviously, the doctor needs to arrange for follow-up. So these are the main aspects of the 5A framework. So looking at the way forward, nephrologists need to prepare for changes in renal disease patterns. This can occur actually because, with the changes in the climate, this can have an impact on the disease pattern. Research needs to be focused on the effect of climate change on renal diseases. So the research needs to focus specifically on climate change and its effect on renal diseases. Formulation of health policies are required that have a direct bearing on climate change. Only when we have policies specific for climate change, we can then expand them towards other types of diseases, effects on other types of diseases, including kidney diseases. Also, programs to monitor and check on susceptible populations should be in place. These are, as I mentioned, the old-aged category, pregnant women, those people with comorbidities like hypertension, heart disease, diabetes, etc. So they need to be monitored and checked, and appropriate support should be provided. Public health response based on early warning systems should be in place. We have these types of early warning systems in case of many climatic calamities. For example, hurricanes, tornadoes, cyclones, etc. These are in place actually. Even for tsunamis, they are in place. But we don't have any early warning systems in place for heat waves. So these needs to be in place. Also, there is a need to educate the public on reducing greenhouse gases, and they should be educated about the, the dangers of using fossil fuels because they increase the greenhouse gases. So they need to be made aware of that. Also, policymakers must be sensitized as well as legislators so that actionable policies are framed and good legislations are passed so that, we can tackle this climate change crisis in a war footing. And also, generation of greater political will is a must. Without political will, we will never be able to tackle climate change inclusively. So, you must all be aware about the climate change, conclaves that we've been having. The first one was the Kyoto Protocol way back in 1997. Since then, we have had many conventions across the globe on climate change. Still, we have not reached a consensus on how to reduce the greenhouse gases. The sooner we decide on this, the sooner we'll be able to achieve our goal, which I highlighted in the very first slide on reducing the global temperature. So with this, I end my talk and thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very wonderful and interesting presentation. We will have question answer session at the end. Now we will invite our last speaker, Professor Dr. Satish Pandalik Dipankar, Professor of Physiology at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Mangalagiri, Andhra Pradesh, India. His topic of presentation is very interesting, effects of climate change on disruption of homeostasis. Welcome, sir. You can start your presentation.
Yes, madam. Thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet, sir.
Yes, you can.
Yes, sure. Please slide show.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Now I think, are you able to see the full screen, madam?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, my topic is effect of climate change on disruption of homeostasis. So, we should know this climate change, its consequences on human health. We should know about homeostasis, how the homeostasis and its response takes place. We have all studied in physiology, and effects of this climate change and how disruption takes place in excess if this homeostatic mechanism fails. So, as per previous speakers also told, climate change refers to the long-term effect of this shift of Earth's temperature and weather patterns. All these human beings are responsible for this climate change, especially after World War II. All these human activities are the main driver of this climate change, primarily due to the overuse of these fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. So this climate change are leading to the intense droughts, water scarcity, severe fires, air pollution, melting polar ice, Antarctica ice, flooding, water pollution, because of which rising sea levels are getting rise, ocean acidification, and storms, and declining biodiversity. So this climate change and drivers, they are ultimately affecting the human health, and it is causing a burden on the government. We know what is the homeostasis. Again, it is a revision for all of us. The great scientist Claude Bernard would coin the term milieu interior, which means the maintenance of constant internal environment. So the body always tries to maintain the change in environment, the change in external environment. Are you getting my slides? Slides are changing. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, slides are getting changed.
Yes, sir. We can see your slide.
Thank you, madam. So we know that homeostasis, it takes place by control mechanisms, positive, negative control mechanisms. It includes the receptors, effectors, which will try to maintain the constant internal environment in terms of the maintenance of blood pH, composition of blood, the maintenance of normal functioning of the tissues and organs. So disruption or this prolonged and exaggerated effects of this climate change lead to the health issues, this air pollution and other climatic change that causes many diseases and public issues. If we all are not intervening it may continue. The cycle will continue, and more the public health issues will be there. So this few issues and few disruptive changes I'm going to discuss. I'm going to put in front of you. So increased heat-related illnesses. The global warming is causing heat-related illnesses, especially heat rash, heat cramps, fainting, heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Out of this, heat exhaustion and heat stroke are very important medical emergencies that we face in our day-to-day life practice. So this heat exhaustion and heat stroke, they are more vulnerable to elderly population, young children, and people living in below poverty line, and those are having pre-existing medical conditions. So how this heat affects or disrupts the homeostasis, I'm going to explain you with the help of this slide. So excessive heat causes the bacteria, gut bacteria and lipopolysaccharide to release into the subcutaneous gut, and it may get released into the blood circulation. From there, during physiological conditions, this gut bacteria and lipopolysaccharide, once they get entered into the bloodstream during normal physiological conditions or during this heat tolerance state, these bacteria or this lipopolysaccharide get removed by monocytes, lipopolysaccharide antibodies, and high density lipoproteins. Once there is excessive heat, once the human body get continuously exposed to the heat, and there is a immunosuppression takes place, or there is a disruption of this gut mucosal epithelium takes place, and leads to the immune suppression that causes endotoxemia. The systemic immune inflammatory response takes place that leads to the excessive entry of these bacteria into the blood circulation that causes sepsis. The septicemia leads to the blood coagulation, necrosis, multi-organ failure, and CNS dysfunction. Ultimately leads to the heat stroke and death. So this air pollution and health issues are causing so many effects, starting from the external, that is the nose, to the lower respiratory tract, that is from sinusitis. It may cause sinusitis till the lung cancer. So many diseases, I'm not going to repeat here. The air pollution is a major health issue causing public health problems. In previous studies, the air pollution in Delhi was 60 times worse than the prescribed limit, especially on the Diwali night, due to the firecrackers. People celebrate Diwali and they put on firecrackers whole night, because of which Delhi will be covered by one smoke, and the air quality of the Delhi will go at very low level. It may go, though the prescribed air quality index is 60, but it may go beyond 1000. So the deaths due to this air pollution is very common and increasing day by day. And due to this smoke and this firecrackers, the small carbon particles, that is called as particulate matter, will increase in the environment, and it causes so much oxidative stress, and it will cause so much difficulty to breathe on the second and third day of the Diwali. Though government is trying to put the ban, but people, due to this religious faith and other things, they are putting the firecrackers. But because of this, there is a lot of burden on common people, and people are getting stressed physically, and this may affect the health issues. Recently published one research study, that is the health and economic impact of air pollution in states of the India. You can say this: there are more deaths due to the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease that is caused due to the air pollution, especially in the Delhi region. So the deaths due to the air pollution, or respiratory tract infections, or this lung cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases are increasing day by day. And again, there is a global surveys there. You can see more deaths are occurring due to the air pollution. Are you able to hear me, and my slides are changing?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see on the right side, there is the majority of these countries are suffering this air pollution, including this China, India, and so many countries, Asian countries. They are having so many deaths due to this air pollution. There are more deaths due to the air pollution as compared to the road traffic accidents in Delhi and some other parts of the India. So if there is a continuous exposure of these air pollutants, it may cause disruption of these homeostatic mechanisms of the respiratory system. It may cause a change in transcription factors. There will be change in the genetic material. Transcription response takes place, and it may cause a abnormal formation of proteins. The carcinogenic genes will be developed, and that may cause the cancer. Again, due to the less availability of the oxygen in air pollution, that may lead to the cancer, ischemia, fibrosis. So again, you can see the hypoxia may stimulate this hypoxia inducing factor 1 and 2. That may, if it is frequently released into the blood circulation, it will lead to the pathological changes, permanent pathological changes that leads to the cancer, ischemia, and fibrosis, lung fibrosis. Apart from this respiratory problems, the air pollution also causes some non-communicable diseases like this atherosclerosis, congestive heart failure, hypertension, diabetes mellitus, cancer, skin cancer, liver cancer, brain tumor, use of plastics and these things again is leading to the early pubertal spurt growth. So you can see this exogenous source of this reactive oxidative stress that is leads to the release due to the stimulation by some pesticides, herbicides, exposure to ultraviolet radiation, and leading to the formation of more and more reactive oxidative stress on human body, leading to the so many diseases, in communicable and non-communicable diseases in human being. So this another mechanism, if there is a continuous exogenous impact is there on human body in the form of this air pollution, heat, and other things, leads to the lipid peroxidation, and that will lead to the formation of aldehydes. These aldehydes will change the DNA, human DNA, that may cause a DNA mutation. The protein modification takes place that leads to the formation of more cancer forming genes. Oncogenes will be produced in more amount and leads to the carcinogenesis. Some vector-borne diseases also increasing due to the change in the climate. For example, this malaria, dengue fever, Zika virus, Lyme disease, they are increasing. The increasing temperature or global warming leads to the more reproduction of these vectors, and that will lead to the vector-borne diseases. And again, it is causing a global burden on the, there is a burden on the government. Waterborne illnesses due to the climate change are due to the industrialization, leads to the release of this industrial waste into the water. Then this oil pollution, storage of leakage of this storage, underground storages, then marine dumping, throwing of this some waste products into the river, going into the sea, that causes the growth of this bacteria, and continuous drinking of this impure water leads to the disruption of this gut and leads to the cancerous growth and immunocompromisation, septicemia, and death. So continuous exposure to this bacteria, viruses leads to the disruption of this protective intestinal epithelium, and that will lead to the formation of this cancer and neoplasma, malignancy. So apart from this communicable, non-communicable diseases, the air pollution or this climatic change also has effect on the mental health. This geophysiological changes leads to the climate anxiety, personal perceptions will change, that it will lead to the development of stress, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. There is a tendency to the suicide will be also increased. Some psychiatric disorders are also increased due to the change in the climate. the change in climate has effect on reproductive functions also. The change in climate, if change in increasing temperature, the increasing global temperature, the increasing the particulate matter, carbon particles, they are causing disruption in the germinal epithelium of male as well as female, and leading to the decreased semen quality, decreased oocyte quality, and decreased altered development of competence of the embryo. That is ultimately going to affect the further generations. So all these changes are more commonly seen in underdeveloped areas or vulnerable populations like older people, people living below poverty line, younger children, and people having some pre-existing medical problems. So this vulnerability may change depending upon the demographic factors, geographic factors, biological factors, and surrounding external environment, and it may also affect the. It may also affect the, or it may cause burden on the government, leading to the various health issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for very interesting presentation. It has covered all the aspects of disruption of homeostasis under the effect of adverse effects of climate. Now, sir, we can start our question answer session. Respected participants, if you would like to ask any question.
Can you ask a question, please?
Yes.
Dr. Bharti, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
My question to you is regarding heat stroke and heat exhaustion. There are two benchmarks which are taken as key benchmarks to differentiate between heat stroke and heat exhaustion, that is sweating and pyrexia. What happens to sweating and pyrexia in heat stroke and heat exhaustion, and why?
I think there is a in the degree of hyperpyrexia it can occur, and mechanism of hyperpyrexia, we know that it affects our temperature regulation center in the hypothalamus, and it has an effect on this part of the body.
Now I'll request our next speaker. She is Dr. Sidra Hamid. She is Assistant Professor of Physiology at Rawalpindi Medical University. She is also a very expressive and fluent speaker. Her topic of presentation is effect of climate change on respiratory physiology and heme physiology. Welcome, Dr. Sidra. You can start your presentation.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Sidra. I am working as Assistant Professor of Physiology in Rawalpindi Medical University. Already, the esteemed guests have given the detailed overview of effect of climate changes on different systems of the body. I will focus briefly on respiratory system and on blood physiology. It has been discussed in all the presentations that climate is changing and there is increase in pollutants, and we can see if we consider respiratory system that we have hydrocarbons, pollen level are rising naturally. We have hydrocarbons, sulfates, nitrates, and due to agricultural work, we have soil particles. So how these are sir, I am unable to change the next slide.
No, sir.
Okay. These particulate matter is basically damaging the respiratory epithelium. It is being deposited in the respiratory epithelium. It is damaging the mucus cells, and it is basically disrupting the immune system, which is part of respiratory system, and it is leading to different type of diseases like incidence of asthma is increasing day by day in children. It is leading to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and in chronic long-term exposure, it is leading to lung cancer, and it is proning the respiratory system for exacerbations of viral infections. And for that, I will share the mechanism. And now for asthma, we can see that the presenting symptoms are cough, wheezing, increased respiratory rate, the hyperreactivity of pathways, respiratory pathways is increased. And it basically lead to susceptibility towards basically the prevalence of asthma is estimated between 1 to 18% of the population in different countries, and it has been seen that it is increasing the burden on society in the form of increased medication use, in the form of increased hospitalization, in the form of increased healthcare related costs, and it is basically leading to asthma related quality of life. These are basically the health effects of air pollution on children, leading to increased stress on the heart, to their lungs, increased prevalence of asthma, shortened lifespan, irritation to eyes, and harmful effects on blood. The more susceptible population are people having prior comorbid diseases like heart diseases, like lung diseases, similarly pregnant women, children and under 14 years of age, and outdoor workers and elderly people. Now, how to protect yourself? We should be well aware of the level of pollution in our area. We should avoid high traffic areas. We should work out in morning. We should avoid smoking. We should take diet rich in vitamin C and other dietary nutrients which boost immunity, and we should avoid exercising outdoors. Now, this is the mechanism how these inhaled pollutants, these are leading to increased viral susceptibility because they enhance viral activity and entry, and through different impaired genetic expression mechanisms, they are disrupting the mechanisms which protect us from viral infections. Now, the effect on epithelium and blood cells, these different types of pollutants are damaging epithelial cells, and they are basically making our immune system reactive towards allergens. Now, it can be seen that these air pollutants are associated with a high HCl dysfunction, which is, we know that cardioprotective. Now, these are the effect of air pollution on various organ systems. We can see on blood cells increased coagulability, reduced oxygen saturation, peripheral thrombosis. Similarly, increased cytokine secretion, leukocyte and platelet activation, and increased acute phase protein, leading to direct genotoxicity, mutation, defect in DNA repair, and all these changes make our immune system susceptible and lead us towards the development of cancer. So this is basically the effect of chronic exposure of these pollutants on our different systems of the body. So this is all, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
Now, respected participants, we will continue our question answer session. So please ask any question if you have.
Sabina to नहीं is Dr. Sabina online? Sabina Malik, please. नहीं होगी.
Sir, वो नहीं है because she was busy. Sir. She had another.
What do you mean by the syndemic word? Anybody? just for me learning. Dr. Samina Malik used the word endemic. Pandemic, endemic is fine. All over the world, endemic is regional in some community or a region. What is endemic? She used the word endemic. Anybody knows it?
Literally meaning of the word suggests that the same thing all over the world. For example, economical down growth, any other thing. Simultaneously.
So it is aggregation of two concurrent.
A syndemic or synergistic epidemic is the aggregation of two or more concurrent or sequential epidemic or diseases clusters in a population with biological interactions which exacerbates the pathogenesis and burden of a disease. Cluster of a disease in a population, basically. Cluster of a disease in a population.
Multiple pandemics, epidemics are present at the same time.
Right, closing remarks.
So no more questions. So I request Professor Dr. Umar Ali Khan, President of Pakistan Physiological Society, for concluding remarks of today's webinar. Sir, please.
Thank you very much, all the participants, for wonderful presentations. It was, they were the talk of the time. I've just forwarded in all the groups one of the research article, which is just published on May 22nd, 2023, quantifying the human cost of global warming. So it is not monetarily, it is the niche of the human population which is getting out of these reasons. And the ecology is altogether changing. We were talking about, climate, which is very good, which was our topic, but it is climate affects the ecology. And ecology talks at the level of organism, individual, population, community, and then the whole ecosystem and biosphere. I was just watching a day ago, Discovery Channel, and they showed that due to this climatic change, the Arctic wolves, they vanished. Antelopes, they increased. The greenery vanished. People living there, they were in trouble. So they reintroduced a few years back the wolves in Arctic region. So the antelope ratio came down. And when this happened, the vultures and other birds came in and the ecology changed. So the climatic change is affecting at organism, at the microorganism level to the general organism level. So we have to, wherever we are, we have to plant, as suggested by Samina as well, we have to plant trees as much as we can. And then we have to stop cutting the trees. And then we have to look after the, extinction of animals, birds, small animals, large animals. And I again thank you all for this wonderful presentation. And I forwarded the article in all PPS group and SAP groups so that it will be, good for us to, it was really relevant to our topic. And the next topic for the next month, Professor Lodi, I request him to announce the topic.
Good afternoon, everyone. The next topic will be on, seminar will be held on Wednesday, 14th of June, inshallah. And the proposed topic is skills of physiology not restricted to physiology labs. So, inshallah, we'll welcome all the participants and all presenters whosoever want to discuss on this topic. This will be encompassing both undergraduate and postgraduate physiology skills, which we teach our undergraduate and postgraduate students. And we are just discussing it in that way that they are not restricted to physiology labs. So it's a very broad topic, and inshallah, we'll see how we'll proceed it.
Just to give you an example, this tea bag putting into the water can teach physiology. Just think about it.
Simple diffusion, sir. Simple diffusion.
Water goes in, color comes out.
Yes.
So all the participants, we are going to send you the shields. And you
So respected participants, now we will distribute shields and certificates. And for online participants, we will send the certificates via email. Thank you.
And
shields also.
posted. ये भी करते हैं बांग्लादेश वगैरह सब जी जी सर
For respected participants, we will send the shields also to the speakers and the other participants.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As always. So the shields of Al-Nafis have become syntamic. Let's start.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जी, all of you, thank you very much, grateful, Professor Bharti, Professor Azasal, and Professor Satish, Professor Samina, Professor Sidra, and I hope Sadia will just send you these shields and certificates now. Sadia got a sheet?
Yes.
Okay, Sadia will receive her sheet.
Thank you much.
Thank you very much.
Great job. God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you very much. Grateful.
This is